Chapter 2, The Dream of Shadows. John Edward stirred in his bed, sheets tangled around his legs, sweat beginning to form on his brow. The room around him was quiet, too quiet, except for the occasional creak of the old house shifting on its foundation. But his mind was anything but still. In the dream, he was not himself. Or maybe, he was more than himself. He glided through a foreign land. The air was dry, dusted with sand and incense, and the buildings were ancient, sun-blasted, and heavy with time. The world around him whispered of an era long gone, possibly before any written record, and yet every corner seemed familiar, like a half-remembered lullaby. He moved from shadow to shadow effortlessly, like a wraith, each movement calculated and natural. No one looked at him, and if they did, their eyes passed over him, unwilling or unable to see him. Ahead, a man stood out, slightly overweight, robed in fine fabric that shimmered slightly even in the dim light. He walked toward a large mosque that rose like a monument to forgotten gods. The man didn't belong. Everything about him, from his clothes to his gait, radiated purpose, control, power. What drew John's attention, however, was the ring. Ornate and ancient, it shimmered gold in the sunlight. At its center was a symbol, a puppet hanging by invisible strings. Encasing it was a triangle, and around the triangle was a wreath-like design, familiar, unsettling. Encircling all of it were runes, jagged and foreign, yet somehow readable through instinct rather than language. The band of the ring bore an eye, not Ra's, not exactly, but reminiscent of the Eye of Re, its gaze cold and eternal. The realization hit like a whisper in a thunderstorm. Illuminati. This man was one of them. Worse, he wasn't just a member. He was known. Codename, Serpent. John, no, not John. Altair. The name felt right in this form. Checked the device on his wrist. A subtle twitch and a blade extended silently with a glint of metal. Another flick, and it retracted cleanly, a thin cloth replacing the hidden dagger instantly, designed to wipe any trace of blood. He had done this before. As the serpent approached the mosque, Altair moved with the crowd, never brushing a shoulder, never drawing a glance. 3 steps behind now, a shadow behind a shadow. And then he whispered the name aloud.
Ashmere!
His hand raised in a friendly gesture, a false pat on the shoulder, swift, precise. The blade sank in, just beneath the scapula. A single pulse. A flick. The blade vanished. Ashmere stumbled. A red petal, a drop of blood, almost delicate, fell to the earth. Gasps. Then silence. The crowd didn't scream. They simply moved on, as if the death were a passing inconvenience. Only a few men, uniforms crisp and expressions sharp, moved to investigate. But Altair was already gone, swallowed by another tide of people, this one robed in white, chanting softly. A symbol on a nearby wall caught his eye. Hidden among chaotic patterns, the eye again, this time flanked by flame-shaped blades. Beneath it, a crude sword like those wielded by ancient gladiators. Without hesitation, Altair stepped into the wall, disappearing through a secret passage as if it were second nature. Now alone, he moved swiftly, sliding his blade into a small divot in the wall. A faint click. A door opened. Behind it was an unassuming room, like a small, old-world cafe. Wooden counters. A single man stood behind it, older, tired, unremarkable.
How are you?
The man asked, as if they'd seen each other only yesterday. Altair gave a nod.
The serpent sleeps.
No heads turned. No whispers stirred. But the man behind the counter replied, voice like gravel and dust.
Hello, Altair. Was it peaceful?
Altair's answer was cool, methodical.
He fell to the ground without a trace.
With that, he passed into the back room. There, a silence deeper than sound awaited. The door slid closed behind him, sealing away the outside world. Inside, a desk. A presence. A man who radiated power, not in force, but in the weight of decisions made long ago. The Magister. Altair placed the ring on the desk before him. Another figure emerged, young, alert, a scribe. With writing tools in hand, he sat, papyrus unrolled. He waited for the record to be spoken. Altair began.
The hidden one Shu listened to the voice in the air. As the serpent entered the village, the land in his shadow became his. But Shu heard the urgency and brought calm to the wind. He saw the serpent bore the mark of corruption. Shu approached, left a single red stain, removed the mark, and departed with the wind. The day began anew.
The scribe nodded, reading it back word for word. With ceremony, Altair pressed the blade into a puddle of wax on the table. When removed, it left a symbol, wind. The magister leaned forward. His eyes were heavy with time. Shu, it is time to become the village once more. Listen for the thunder on the horizon. And wait. Altair gave a final nod. Then, like a shifting mask, Altair was gone. John awoke with a gasp. His eyes snapped open, heart pounding. Morning light streamed through the blinds of his room in Kerrville, Texas. The cows were lowing somewhere outside, and the rustle of daily chores was beginning. But his mind remained in the dream. He could still feel the weight of the blade on his wrist, the silence of that room, the words.
The serpent sleeps.
What disturbed him most, however, was not the vividness. It was the certainty that it was not a dream at all. As he dressed for the day, he saw the flash of Lisa's face. Her lips moved, but the words were lost. He'd been standing outside her house. Was that real? Was it part of the dream? He needed answers. And something in him whispered,
This was only the beginning.
Now let us talk about others in the story ahead. Chapter 3, Unseen Threats. The next morning, James Edwards sat alone in the barn, his hands resting on a weathered journal wrapped in black leather. He hadn't opened it in years, not since Eddie left. Eddie, the eldest, had turned away from the family's legacy, choosing a different path. Tall, blonde, broad-shouldered, he had the look of a man who could lead armies, but chose accounting instead. He'd walked away from it all, the oaths, the missions, the blood. James never blamed him for it. The fold wasn't meant for everyone, but it was in the blood, and John. John had begun to dream. James opened the journal. Inside were pages of coded entries, not the kind a spy might use, but something older, drawn in symbols only those trained by the fold would understand. He stopped at a name. Nadia Russel, activity in Gulf region, coordinates confirmed. She was the head of the Illuminati's North American faction now. Elegant, cunning, and ruthless. Her rise had been swift, too swift, the council had whispered. But she was effective, and she had a gift for shaping powerful men into obedient vessels. Rumor had it, she'd been behind the appointment of 5 senators and at least 3 judges in the last decade alone. And now she was eyeing Texas, the hill country specifically. Kerrville. James closed the journal and walked back toward the house. It was time to talk to Janet.
Thank you for your time. Like, share, follow, and if you like it, please subscribe and visit my other social medias. Thank you for your time. And remember, you are loved no matter what you do. Thank you.